Well, this I did not gesso, okay? I just put some water, I spritzed this with water and put some watercolor paper down, or some watercolor paint down in a couple colors, and I just prepared this very simply and easily. And I just want you to see the whole journal's the thing. And what I want to show you is how this just pretty much orients itself to any kind of, like this bottom part, it can just be like a horizon line almost. So I'm going to bring my little palette over here and we'll see what we can do as far as stenciling a little bit with this guy. So I'm gonna get some, I'm using some watercolors, some yellow ochre, some Prussian blue. Let's use Prussian blue. That's gonna be pretty, pretty, pretty. Ooh, it's a mess too. I must have squeezed that before I opened it. Okay, so I've got my watercolor out here, and I'm gonna get a little bit of water to thin it out a little bit. Just a tiny bit, because I don't want it to get too runny, okay? But I mainly want to show you guys that you don't have to always be using acrylics. And sometimes it's nice to use watercolor, especially in your journals. So I'm going to go and stencil a few areas around the bottom using watercolor. This is a Prussian blue, and I'm just following this line here on the stencil. I love these little parts, these little, they're almost shaped like moon parts, you know, like little, what is that called? You know, when it's not a full moon, it's just like a little sliver of a moon. And anyway, I'm gonna bring it across, and look at how nice that stencils. You don't think of watercolor as being a stencil medium, right? Crescent moon, thank you. God, I'm like such a dork, it's unbelievable. So I love that you can use watercolor and you just don't think of it. Just try to keep your brush as dry as you can, but use watercolor. And then I'm gonna flip this over, and first I'm gonna see, we'll see if this wipes, but let's see. I think this will press the other side down to the other side. And just a little bit, but it's a little echo. So I'm gonna just leave that there, and then I'm gonna go and watercolor on top of it on this side, so that I have just a little horizon line and kind of a little bit of this bottom with the Prussian blue. You've never used the watercolor. Now see, that side's messier, but see, that's okay to me, because for me, I like it when it looks not quite as stenciled. And I'm gonna spritz this one to let it bleed out a little bit, and spritz this. And you just get options that are going to make you, allow you to use your stencils in yet another different way. I'll hold it this way. Maybe you can see it better. And then you can see it dripping out. And I mean, watercolor, love it, love it, love it, right? Because you can't get that sort of bleeding out really, I mean, a little bit, but not so much with acrylic. In this business of easily blotting away, I like too. So, especially if you're looking for, yeah, it kind of reconstitutes it with, this is tube watercolor. Yes, this is a, I was going to use my core watercolors and I had them at home. So this is a M. Graham and Company. This is the Prussian blue. And of course I have the yellow ochre also, which I like quite a bit, and it makes these gorgeous greens and so forth. Now, I would say the one downside is that it's slower to dry when you get it really wet like this. So I'm gonna turn it around and keep it this way, and then I'm gonna work on this dry section, I think. And we'll let it some dribbles happen here. And because I want to use some other parts of this stencil too, and I want to try some other things. This is not necessarily going to be the night of the perfect journal page, okay? I want to show you some techniques. The other thing I wanted to show you, and we've talked about this before, but it's been a while, is these distress crayons. These work really well with watercolor also because they move around with water. So you can use them. So I'm gonna just take this one. This is Rusty Hinge. And then I'll take a little bit of spiced marmalade. And then put those down. And then let's put these flowers on top. And this is a baby wipe. And I'm gonna pounce and kind of move my finger at the same time so that I'm kind of, what I'm trying to do is mix this underneath the stencil without moving the stencil. So, oh, that did not work at all. So let's blend this a little bit. I think this is gonna need some gesso underneath it, guys. All right, I'm gonna put some gesso down here, and then I'm gonna come back and do this in a minute. I've got another page ready. We'll just swipe a little gesso over this part here. And then I've got another page ready with some other texture on it already that I already let dry down because it's going to take a long time to dry. All right, so let's put this to the side for a couple of minutes. And then I'm going to grab this page, which I kind of stayed in the same colors. And what you probably can't see, I'm going to try to hold this up. Do you see this bottom part here? This is glass bead gel. I'm trying to see if I can, I think you can see the reflection there of it. If I hold it, see that reflection? Here's what I did. I took that part of the stencil, the part of the 6x6 that everybody thinks maybe looks like a caterpillar or an insect or a something, and I stenciled all across the bottom of this. And I took it like this, this, this. I just took it all across this bottom, all right? And now I have this idea. I hope this is gonna work. I have great hopes of it. I thought that if I just wet down some watercolor and used it with a wet brush, it would go in between and around that glass bead gel. And it would look really cool. So we shall see. This is nothing like you're watching my mad scientist happen. Mary Nasser gets to see this all the time when she's with me in my studio. Yeah. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna spritz it first because that is acrylic, that glass bead gel. And I'm gonna put this in between the watercolor. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah. Oh my. And this is Prussian blue watercolor on top of stenciled glass bead gel. Oh my. I haven't ever done this before. And I might have to do that again, eh? It's really pretty, right? Oh my. That glass bead gel, boy, it's something else, isn't it? I use it in a different application in this month's StencilClub tutorial. I'm gonna let this bleed out a little bit because again, see, you've got flexibility. You're talking about watercolor, right? And I like that. When you can just, oh, look at that. It almost doesn't need anything else, does it? It just looks cool, and it could even be done right now, right? Let's see what else we could do. Let's grab a little bit of this yellow ochre and make some green and put a little bit up there. I'm just gonna go fill in up there. This is with some yellow ochre, maybe over here. But honestly, I'm thinking this doesn't need a lot more. I kind of like the way it looks. The other thing that is really nice about watercolor is that if you get a little overdone, you can just blot up too. And if you want to pull back some whites, like look at this part here, it's just getting, it's not muddy really, but you can pull up some too. And I think that looks pretty nice, right? Love it, love it, love it. All right, I'm gonna set that to the side. Glass bead gel. Put it through a stencil and wait for the magic. It is about dry. This half is about dry. All right, so on this, I'm gonna use the, let's go down here since we got some of this green. Might as well put some more down and around. Already got it on the brush, right? Okay, so that's the rusty hinge. And this is the spiced marmalade. And then maybe we'll put a little bit of peacock feather along this too. These are water soluble too, however they're a little waxy, so it's a little bit different than just the straight water soluble. Let's do this cheesecloth area. How about that? That'll be cool, huh? And again, I'm kind of blending, pushing. Looks like it's all going away, doesn't it? And there it is. You want to see that close up, guys? Isn't that amazing? So what happens is, you need to put down gesso first. Then you put down your distress crayons. Let's do another section. You put down your distress crayons, and I probably don't even need as much as I was using. Let's finish this whole area. How about that? Yeah, let's do. Sometimes I feel like a crazy person, like I'm sitting here talking to myself. And anyway, so what happens is the stencil presses down this crayon part onto the surface. And then when you, you kind of blend it and it shoves it under the stencil. So you get the linear part of the stencil. Sorry if it's making the table pounce a little bit. I get kind of robust with it. I guess I get pretty excited, right? But one thing that's nice about it is, one, you can kind of go around the edges like this, or you could blend it out. Or like if you think you have an area that you don't like, you could just take it away. I mean, it's on gesso. Look at that. You can just wipe it away. Let's do another round. These crayons are pretty waxy, and they do need to move around a little bit. So we'll put down, that's the spiced marmalade, and then we'll put down the peacock, and then a little bit of the rusty hinge. This one's getting dried up. I must have left the lid off of this one. So let's see, let's use this stencil. Let's do the little quasi-animal part. Now see, I'm calling it an animal myself, right? And then you just pounce, push, you're kind of trying to blend the color underneath the stencil. And there you go. So I'll bring this up close. I think one of the coolest things about it is that it holds the whites for you. And it's, for me anyway, I get really excited about the paint or the medium, no matter what it is. And I always forget to hold the whites. So this is a nice way to do that. And then you can just remove those edges if you want or whatever. I mean, look at that, easy, right? And then I can go back in and get my watercolor that I have over here. Because these are all gonna work together, these mediums. They're all water soluble. This is a little bit waxy. Now I'm gonna wipe this away because it's not dry yet and I just messed it up, but gives you lots of options for sure. I have noticed that there are different qualities of watercolor in that some are more permanent and dry down better, like the goldens, and then some do not dry down as permanent as others. I'm not sure about these Martha Grahams. Let's see what they do. Look, they're drying down pretty darn permanent. So that's good. So it gives you this water soluble result without having to, you know, worry about a lot of the staining and the other stuff. I was thinking I might put a big leaf up here. What do you think? You know what? We used kind of the line over here. Let's use the line to go up here and just line it up with the corner, right? All right, I am gonna add a little bit of white gesso to the watercolor this time, all right? To get a different color. And I'm gonna get a little bit more of that Prussian blue, and I wanted to just kind of work a lighter color of blue, and I don't have a watercolor that color. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna add a little bit of gesso to it. And let's try something different. Let's use a brush to apply the paint. And of course I've picked the floppiest part of the stencil. It would have been smart for me to do this on a tight part of the stencil. It would have worked a lot better. But I'm looking for a painterly effect is what I'm looking for here. A painterly effect with the stencil. And when you use a brush like this, you're going to get a more painterly effect. And also, since we're using watercolor, well, kind of goes without saying. So I'm gonna go down here and get some of the ochre for those, these round bits down here. And I'm gonna use this one that had the blue on it before and a little gesso. So I am gonna use a sponge for this part. Let's see how this looks. Oh, I'm making a little foam here. It's pretty wet. I wanted a lighter color down there. Get this line going across. And let's see where we are when we pull this up. Let's go up here and blend it out. We started with the brush. You can blend it out with the sponge. And then pull it away, and look, you've got a nice stencil result that is just not as crisp as what you normally have because you've used a brush. So you can, we got watercolor, remember? You can kind of pounce this out with your baby wipe. Look at this. Kind of pull it out. Here's the thing, this is what I do when I do that, is I meant to do that. I wanted it to look a little less precise. And I think, you know, I just want us to remember all the different ways we can use stencils. We don't always have to use a sponge. We don't always have to use acrylic paint. We don't, you know, there's no rules here. Just figure it out and think of fun, different ways to use these stencils. Because what I love is when I see people using the stencils and they all get completely different results with the same stencils. I mean, is that so cool? I love that, just love it. And that's what I'm basically trying to illustrate tonight. It's just some different ways to use the stencils and to get some different results. And you can always go back in with some more opaque paints like I'm doing, like with that, or oops, it is a mixed media journal, yeah, it is. Or you can go back in with your brush, you can add brush marks. I mean, there's so many different ways to approach these journal pages, your art, or whatever it is that you might be working on. If I had my, I don't even have a skewer here. Oh, how sad is that? Here's one. Go back in and make your marks with a skewer. This is how you eventually make the art your own, is when you just give yourself permission to play and be a wild scientist. It does look like a large conch shell, and I was thinking of it as a leaf when I designed it, but I definitely see that. Now look at this. Okay, this is the part we did earlier. And I kind of like this, gently or just pouncing over it. It is creating this interesting result that I could never paint something like that and have the wherewithal to figure that out. But just play. Look at that, isn't that fun? I mean, seriously, fun, fun, fun. I love it. And then you can go upside down, and I will have to say this is maybe my favorite part right here. I don't want to play favorites, but I guess maybe I am, right? Let's see how this looks with the brush. This is with a dark Prussian blue, and I mixed in some of that ochre with it. We'll go over into the flowers. How fun. See, look at how these sections come out. I'm loving this, guys. I'm just loving it. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure and subscribe so you'll know when the next stencil tutorial is available. Discover thousands of stencils, info about classes, and about StencilClub when you click the links below. Happy stenciling!